So, all right, so we will get started. So hello, everyone. My name is Clarissa Tejeda, and I'm the Associate Director of Career Services here at the Mays Center at Texas A&M San Antonio. And welcome to our first ever Majors and Minors Week. This is in our virtual setting, so we're really excited because not only do we get to have these conversations with alumni, again, maybe these timeframes may work much better for you because it's a lot more flexibility, which is, hey, great for that. But also we can have an archive of this, which is really phenomenal because then we can always go back and look at this and kind of explore other conversations. So we are on day two. Day two, we're actually launching with our College of Business that we're showcasing first our accounting and finance alum, kind of talking again what their career journey looked like. Now, for housekeeping purposes, just a few things. So if you do have questions throughout the session, please feel free to enter them into the chat. Also making sure, because I think we've all learned in virtual meetings, the mics kind of get sensitive. So making sure that we are muting if we're not speaking, just to make sure to kind of eliminate some of that background noise so we can be respectful of everybody's voice in this conversation. Again, we are going to be recording this session and it will be posted on the Mays Center. So that's at Tamusa Mays YouTube channel within the next 24 hours. So again, please feel free to share with anyone you feel this information could be really insightful for. It really is a conversation for any Jaguar in any point of their career journey right now. All right, so let me introduce our panelists, which I just want to give a quick shout out. Thank you so much, Dr. Mary Kay Cooper, for just being a complete rock star and really allowing this conversation to go on and just being a great partner for it. So thank you so much, Dr. Cooper, for your
My pleasure. Thank you, alumni.
Yeah. And alumni, you already know how we feel about you, just the fact of how you represent us out there in the community. Kudos to you. So our first panelist is Chantelle Bowers. So she's actually a class of 2018 accounting alum, and she is working as a tax and audit lead / junior bookkeeper at Spectrum Association Management. I love the words of advice. So we did ask all of our alumnus for kind of a nugget of advice for our freshman class. So Chantelle's piece of advice is actually failure doesn't mean you can't do something. It means there's a room for improvement, which absolutely, thank you for that. There's a difference between knowing you are not perfect and being accepting of it. So thank you so much for that, Chantel. I think that's something that's kind of a scary concept. You're like, oh my goodness, I failed at something. Just get yourself back up and learn from it. So thank you for that. Our next alumnus is Chris Costrow, who's part of our 2017 alumnus, and he is actually a finance major. So Chris is working with Zachary Group as an IT business analyst. So thank you so much, Chris, for joining us. And again, I appreciate your words of wisdom. So enjoy the process of getting the degree. The time flies by, right? So it's one of those, I think, when you first start, you're like, oh yeah, it's going to go by, really slowly. Like, no, it flies by. And network. Absolutely, yes. Work hard and don't give up. So thank you for that words of wisdom. And then finally, we have Josh Wagner, who is part of our 2009. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. You're part of our original crew here. Thanks, Josh. You're coming from the accounting background. And he is currently serving as the internal audit team lead with Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union. With special shout out, we will actually be hosting an externship day next week with them. So check out Handshake for more information on that. And Josh's words of wisdom is don't be afraid to ask your advisor or professors how to make something happen instead of if something can happen. Again, I love that. Actually being, I guess, accountable and really being forward with what you're wanting to do. So very cool. And that closed door might not be closed as you think. So yeah, I appreciate that because again, those open conversations and be very intentional with your time and effort here. So kudos to that. All right. So because again, the joys of virtual means I want to see people's faces. So I always turn off the screens at this point and I welcome to see people here. So I want to go ahead and get started with our first question for our alumnus. I want to know if you could tell us a little bit more of your educational and your professional background. How did you get to where you are now? So Chris, we'll get started with you and then Josh and then Chantelle on this.
Okay, I actually started off in our when I first got hired with Zachary, I was actually in the accounting department, and what really helped was the accounting that I learned from Tamusa and getting involved with that and so forth, and then I finally eventually was able to move up and do business analysis with the IT department for financial departments.
Nice. Josh?
Unmute myself there. So I actually got started, kind of accounting was not a primary thought of mine when I started college. I graduated from Business Careers High School here in San Antonio. At that time, all I thought about accounting was journal entries and bookkeeping, and didn't know much about audit, but that was pre-Sarbanes-Oxley. And so after kind of changing majors a couple times, went back and listened to some high school teachers who said, you really just get accounting, you should look into it. And so looked into it, got involved with the A&M San Antonio accounting group, managed to, really just kind of chug along a lot quicker than I thought I would once I got into accounting, and turned out a pretty decent GPA. So clearly I was meant to do something in this realm. And then from there, went on to get my master's degree at A&M College Station. That was kind of my goal. Once I settled on accounting, I knew auditing was where I wanted to go. And so getting my CPA was a primary target of mine. And it was just kind of a good personal goal for me to go to College Station and get the benefit of having the smaller integration that we had with Dr. Elam and the accounting group here, but then also getting the benefit of the big A&M. But I wouldn't have been as successful there, I don't think, if I hadn't done it as well here.
Nice, that foundation, right?
Absolutely.
All right, Chantelle?
I actually started with accounting from the get-go. When I did my associates, it was in accounting, and my bachelor's was in accounting, and now my master's is going to be in accounting as well. But my professional background, I started as accounts payable, and then I progressed, transitioned into the tax department, started acting as a liaison between CPAs for our clients. And then, so just kind of really transitioned into that tax and audit lead, and then just progressed from AP to bookkeeping. And so now I do a little bit of all the accounting functions at the company I work for.
Nice. So congrats to all of y'all for just again launching out there and getting out into the world of work. So our next question that I have is, again, with your major, you had to develop these really key skills that would translate into what you do now. I want to know what those are, and how have you really kind of focused in on continuously developing them throughout your career? So Josh, we'll start with you, and then Chantelle and Chris.
Yeah, I really think it's analysis. Something I really kind of honed into is doing the research and really digging deep into what's the root cause of a problem. I'm a self-proclaimed control zealot, or internal control zealot, when it comes to accounting, where I do feel like internal controls are really important. But part of an understanding of internal controls is how can they break? How can they not work as designed? And how can we make them better? Just because you're a sole proprietorship with 3 employees doesn't mean you can't, have some form of segregation of duties. You just have to approach it from a different way. So using those T-charts, using a flowchart diagram to map out how things are going to work. And that's all stuff that's really key to just doing the research, doing the analysis, and thinking through things.
All right, Chantelle?
The biggest thing that helped me get through college and into the workforce and helped me really develop my skills in my current position is organization and time management. I have had to fine tune it over the years and figure out what works best for me, but always remembering that, you need to take some time for you mentally and physically, or, just take some time away from school or away from work, to kind of just refresh your brain, because you do get burnt out from doing so many assignments, from working so many hours, all of that stuff. I started with, just trying to write down what assignments were due each week. And then I've just progressed into, okay, I keep a planner, so I can see what is coming due or what needs to be done. And then I can plan accordingly for other things. And that it allows me to prioritize what's important and not important.
Yeah, special shout out to time management, especially for our first year students who just got some classwork highlighting that. So it is a thing, y'all. There was a reason why that was talked in your courses, because it is still a skill that you're going to need in the world of work, especially I think in this virtual environment. All right, so thank you for that, Chantel. And Chris.
So I was actually going to say time management as well, because that is very important. I think everybody could contest to that. You know, there's always deadlines that need, even in the workforce after school, there's deadlines. So time management without a doubt, and also networking. You know, school. You know, you gotta help. You gotta lean on other people. You know, even in the workforce, you have to lean on other people to get projects done and to things like that. So those are the main two I say. You know, that really helped me.
Very cool. Yeah, I keep my schedule at all times because you kind of need that. So thank you for reinstating that. Now the next question I have is, so you know when you're going through the classwork, you're like, okay, why are they making me do this? Why are they making me work in a team? Why are they making me do this assignment? Sometimes it's not really clear just yet. How did those experiences and just life here at A&M San Antonio really prepare you for life after graduation? Let's see, we'll go ahead and get started with Chantelle on this, and then Chris, and then Josh.
One of the biggest things that helped me through going through school and then helping transition into the professional world afterwards was, you know, like Chris says, you know, networking. But by being involved in those extracurricular programs that are offered by the Mays Center and, you know, all different, you know, places within Texas A&M, it helped me to learn how to do that and to how to speak to people who were not necessarily within my job function or who were not super familiar with something that I was educated in. And being able to talk to and communicate to those people effectively and really just gain some confidence in what I was saying, that's really helped me prepare for the workforce after graduation. And it's been a really good thing, you know, something I'm glad that I've learned.
Thank you for that. Right, next. I think it was Chris on this one.
Yes, I was looking for the mute button. So honestly, one of the things like presentation, speaking, you know, one of those working in teams, you know, oh, what I got to work in this team, what I got to work in that team. All the projects that I've worked on so far is not just me by myself. It's a group of people. I do work with international people as well. So one of those things of learning to work with different personalities, different language barriers, you know, it's one of those things that we have to get over. And little did I know that Texas A&M built the foundation for that. And from there, it's been a building block. I've just been trying to improve myself, trying to improve the communication with international students or international people that I work with. And that is just one of the things that Texas A&M has really helped, that you might not see that, oh, why do I got to be in this group or why do I got to do that? But it helps a lot.
Nice. Yeah, I remember those teamwork days in undergrad. You're like, why are they doing this to me? You thought it was a personal attack when they're like, oh wait, there's a reason to this madness. I think College of Business students especially have been really honed in to become masters of it. So thank you, Chris, for that. All right, Josh.
Yeah, I do think the teamwork aspect was an important part, but really kind of the combination of both independent and teamwork, kind of how switching back and forth within classes, you know, you'd have one project that'd be more independent, doing on your own, and then the next one you'd have to team up with people. And so it's kind of like that flexibility that we have out in the workforce where, you know, some days we're going to be doing a lot of work by our own. You're just going to be nose to the grindstone trying to turn out a product. Other days you're going to be relying on 3-4 other people to kind of get their piece done. And at the end of the day, you know, it's got to get done somehow. And how do you work with, you know, people who have conflicting priorities? You know, not everyone's got the same goal of, you know, I must graduate with the top of my class. You know, some people are just happy to graduate. And so their work may reflect that, but you know, how do you get them to turn out a product nonetheless if your grade is relying on them?
Very wise there, Josh. Very nice. All right, so the next question I have is, I want to know what's been your favorite professional project so far. Something you're like, okay, yeah, this is where I really shined. So on this one, we'll get started with you, Josh, and then Chantelle, and then Chris.
So I've had some really fun ones. And I think if I had to pick where I shined, I really have to say in my audit work, as a external auditor previously, you know, working for a public accounting firm, we had lots of banking clients that I worked on, and one of my favorites was one I was on for many years, and really just kind of every year was a development. How can I make this audit better? How can I make this just a little bit better from the year before? What changes can I make? And by the end of it, I really could kind of see my personal stamp on certain work papers and how things were formulated. And we really did get a really good efficiency out of that product by the end of it. Of course, our firm was eventually bought out by another firm, and we had new rules come on top of that. So it kind of ruined some of my efficiencies, but at least prior to that point, it was fantastic. And I do have one other one it's my favorite, particularly just because it's so much fun. I got to do an inventory count of sand for a fracking company out in West Texas. And if you've never seen fracking sand, it is just a giant mound of sand. And so not only was I responsible for kind of counting, okay, what do they have finished product, which is in a silo that's measured, you can see the poundage, but their work in progress was a giant pyramid cone of sand that I had to estimate the geometric volume in order to calculate the weight and then calculate the dollar amount. So I really had to kind of stretch my brain on that one. And luckily the state will tell you exactly how much a volume should be in poundage. They have a nice formula for that for you. So wouldn't have known that if I didn't have to do that.
Good to know. Hey, those mathematics, they still come back.
Oddest project I've ever had, but it was one of my most favorite ones. I still talk to it to this day.
Well, very cool. All right, Chantel.
To date, so one of the things that I'm both most proud of and was my favorite project was one of the things that I get to do on a daily basis is answer people's tax and audit questions, especially people who don't understand it and don't have any financial background whatsoever, and then they want to know, can you explain to me where these numbers came from, or why the CPA is saying this, or what's happening. And a lot of times we answer the same questions over and over and over because you've got so many different clients. So what I did over the last year was create reference sheets with some of those frequently asked questions that people can just refer back to or share with another board member or whatever, and not only really understand those themselves, but they can use those to explain it to somebody else. And getting that feedback that people are not only comfortable with reading it and understanding it, but then they can go and explain it to somebody else afterwards, that was really rewarding, and I really enjoyed doing that.
Very cool. Yeah, just you saw an opportunity, you just took advantage of it, didn't you? Nice. And that's something we want to encourage, like critical thinking, right? Again, once you get your degree, that is what you're there to really do, to offer that insight, to streamline process. So very nice job on that. All right, Chris.
So one of the projects that I'm actually involved in right now, I'm pretty happy with. I'm working with in the Philippines, creating a new accounting system for them over there, since the government doesn't recognize certain accounting systems. So right now we're actually helping them create an accounting system and everything else like that. So that's one thing that I really like, to help international employees and do so forth like that. As well as just seeing other people grow from what I learned to pass it on. That's something that I always find joy in what I do.
That's awesome. Congrats on that. All right, so again, we went on a high right now talking about our favorite projects. Now, though, I want to talk about the challenges, because again, we've all had them, right? So what has been the greatest challenge / learning moment? Let's, keep this positive also, right? That you've had to face so far in your career. Chris, I'll get started with you on this, and then Josh, and then Chantelle.
One challenge that I still work on daily right now is since I'm part of the IT group right now, their language and how they do things is a little different than the business. So trying to understand and so forth, trying to understand them and teach them business, and they teach me IT. Just one of those things that's a challenge is trying to communicate that language barrier with IT and business, because majority of them don't really want to know about the business. They just want to do the IT side, but they got to understand the business side. So it's just that's a big challenge that I've been facing lately.
Yeah, I can totally get that. All right. Josh?
I think kind of making the decision to leave public accounting was kind of a good learning moment for me. Um, and I never thought I would. I kind of, when I got started in auditing, I really kind of thought, all right, this is where I'm going to stay. I'm going to be with this firm forever. And then the firm got bought out. So that kind of changed my plan. And I did give it a couple of years after the merger. And it was really just kind of a growing up moment where I had to look at it and kind of go, okay, what's really important for me? What are my goals professionally and personally? And how are these going to work together? Because I could have stayed, but at the same time, I don't think my family life would have been as happy. And so I really needed to try to find that balance. And looking at the different options available, I kind of went back to it and looked at, well, what am I looking at? Auditing, internal audit, what are my options? And I kind of at one point thought I was maybe keeping myself a little too thin by only focusing on internal audit positions. And so I decided to go into consulting for a year and just kind of spread the wings a little bit. Of course, that year helped me realize, no, I really do miss audit. So I wasn't keeping myself, too focused. It's like, no, that's really where I was happiest was when I was doing audit work. But it gave me a different exposure, different experience, and something I can still use to this day.
Nice, thank you. And I appreciate you even highlighting the fact that you were still testing things even once you started working, because that's also something, a big conversation where students are like, okay, I've declared this one major, I've declared this career path, and this is it for the rest of my life. It's like, well, you don't know. You may pivot in a different direction. People change career paths in the middle of their career. And so being open to that. So thank you for sharing that, Josh. All right, Chantel.
I think the biggest thing for me was after graduation was not giving up hope. First thing I applied, for probably close to 50 positions, it seemed like. And because I hadn't had any previous experience beside my schooling, it seemed like nobody wanted to give me a chance and, say, hey, you know what? We want to, be that first job that you have out of college, and just not giving up and remembering that somebody was going to eventually take a chance on me. And finally, it was, I got one interview and then I got another interview, and just going through those, once you started getting something other than a rejection letter, something, it was like, okay, now that I have this, do I have to take this job, or do I want to take the job that's right for me? And so by waiting and kind of just sifting through those different interviews and looking at what the job entailed, or if it was going to help me further my own personal goals, then being able to do that was something that, a bit of a milestone that I felt I had to really overcome. And, even now when I receive rejection letters or just invitations to do something, or, hey, we want to reach out to you about this job, it's still really, I have to think about it, every day. Is this going to align with something that I want to do? Or is it just thank you and I'm flattered?
Thank you for mentioning the positive mindset, though. I think that's so important because, especially in a job search, especially in this new environment, it could be really daunting, especially say for the class of 2020, right? That could be a challenge. And so, kind of keeping that focus and saying, it's part of the journey, and celebrating when you get that interview and making sure you're prepared for it as much as possible. I also appreciate that you had mentioned making sure the experiences before you graduate. Because that's a big conversation we have with employers where they not only want to see the coursework, but they want to say, okay, well, how have you test drove this? Have you worked before? Have you interned, externed? So thank you for mentioning that so much. Now, I want to go back. Let's reverse time, right? So back when you were an undergrad, what is that piece of advice that you would offer yourself now? So again, you're talking to freshman you. What would you say? So Chantelle, we'll get started with you on this, and then Chris, and then Josh.
I think the biggest thing looking back is, for me, that when I first started going to school, was that I was so super focused on finishing. And part of the time I didn't really enjoy the journey, of finishing that and working towards something. And I think that I would have benefited a little bit better if I had focused on more than just academia. If I had said, you know what, let me take some time to do something other than schoolwork and maybe give my brain a break, or, you know, focus on friendships or working somewhere, you know, at the same time. Just kind of really padding that resume, and also padding, you know, my personal life and the rest of, you know, making that really well rounded.
Thank you for that. All right, next.
Yeah, I think my piece of advice is just never give up. Just keep on. It's worth it. It is worth the struggle, the late nights. It is worth, the end goal is very much worth it.
Yeah, because when you're in there, you're like, okay, this all nighter did not feel right. But yeah, focus on the end result. So very cool. All right, Josh, what you got?
Well, I kind of have a couple. I think, you know, if I could go back early on, I would definitely say, okay, really think about accounting, because it really did make undergrad a lot better once I actually started honing in on that accounting again. Taking the advice of those people who, you know, apparently saw something that maybe I didn't at the time. But really also just, again, focus on not just the schoolwork, not just work, but yeah, I think there's some aspects to, you know, personal life I didn't pay attention to, such as maybe being a little bit more physically active, you know, focusing on maybe that health aspect that I really wasn't kind of worried about, because it was like, I was, you know, in my 20s, I was, you know, healthy as an ox, nothing bad could happen to me. And then you're 30 and you're like, hold on, everything hurts. Why? So, you know, again, not just focusing on the academics and, you know, the work side, but making sure to be physically active as well.
So very holistic experience, right? So building those report, yeah. And that's the joy of college. I mean, not only do you get to learn again your professional side, but you get to just learn who you are as a person, which is kind of cool. So thank you for mentioning that. And I agree. After 30, everything does hurt. You feel weather in a whole different way. It's horrible. All right. So yesterday, one of the interesting topics that kept on coming up with all three panels was the presence of mentorship, on how a mentor really did help them kind of transform what direction they were going in. I'm curious if any of y'all have had a mentor in your life that really did help transform you, and also what advice would you have for a student that maybe they want to approach a mentor? How do they do that? So I'll leave this open to get anyone who may have experienced this.
So with me, my mentor is actually a professor there at Texas A&M, Dr. Douglas Carter. You know, you know, I had him at like a 9:30 p.m. class, or one of the late night classes, and I have to be in the seat. That's just me. I can't do online learning. It's hard. It's a struggle for me. So he noticed, you know, he noticed me always there, never missed a day. We started talking and just networking with him, asking him questions, being vocal in the class, you know, participating. And from there it snowballed, and I have to say, he's one of the best mentors I've ever had, and he outshines everybody when it comes to that. And it's just, how do you do it? You just show effort, show that you want to learn, show that you're hungry for the education and everything.
Thank you for that. Yes, Dr. Carter's phenomenal. I think you can tell he really does care about his students, and just having a conversation with them. We were joking around in the beginning that faculty are human, right? And so just having a conversation with them, because they've also worked in industry. So kind of getting that insight's really powerful. All right. Any of Josh or Chantel, do y'all have anything to contribute on this one?
No.
All right, Josh?
Yeah. So I think for me, I've had so many. It's almost like a collecting, you know, mentors left and right, and everyone's kind of got a different perspective. But I think the important part is, you don't have to stay focused to just your field. You can look around, and everyone's got something to offer. So if you see someone who's better at time management than you, pick their brain, you know, use them to help mentor you in that development. If you see someone who's, you know, kind of got the job that you think you would like someday, and you want to learn more about it, you know, take them out to lunch, sit down with them. Again, showing the effort and putting yourself out there, because the more you put yourself out there, the more you're going to get out of it. It is kind of a two-way street. And actually, speaking as a mentor, I go to my old high school and talk with them. It's a lot of times, as the mentor, you don't really know what to say. Like, I could lecture about my life and experience, but that may not be meaningful to you. The big thing might be actually, what do you want to know? What do you want to learn? And if you don't tell me, I'm just going to be telling you from my own experience.
That actually echoed quite a bit from yesterday too, where they're like, you know what, come in with a purpose and come in with questions, like being very intentional and being really mindful, hey, of that time, use it wisely, right? So thank you for that. And I love the fact that you mentioned, it can be outside your industry. Again, maybe it's someone like one of my colleagues is really, really, really savvy in regard to project management, like systems. I am not quite there. So I pick her brain as much as I can just to learn that. I'm like, tell me what you know and how can I learn that? So thank you for that, Josh. Now, the final question I'll have before we open up to, again, if anybody has any general questions, please feel free to put it into the chat. I want to know, what is a resource that you would recommend for students if they really do want to maybe deep dive into the industry that you're in? Again, are there professional associations, maybe like journals, or again, what kind of experiences they need to be doing during this time? Chantelle, I'll start with you, and then Josh, and then Chris.
There are tons of professional associations that are out there for accounting fields, whether it's internal auditing or CPAs or management accountants. And I know that I've personally used quite a few of them, and a lot of times will have student memberships or open events where they invite you to come and check it out. Maybe you're interested, maybe you're not, maybe you just want to see what they're about, and utilizing those and really getting to find out what those different types of certifications and things are. It expanded not only my personal knowledge on it, but it also made me shift some thinking on my focus and said, do I want to just become a CPA, or is there maybe a different certification that I would like to pursue instead or in conjunction with?
Nice, thank you. All right, next.
Yeah, I agree. I think with accounting, there's such a plethora of resources out there, and I'll focus on auditing just for me. Obviously there's the Texas, Society for CPAs. There's the San Antonio chapter of that's a wealth of resource for whether you're going to be taxed. That's actually how I met some of the first professionals in the field, was going to just some of their student events. And the people who are involved with those societies are so giving of their time. As a now professional, I can say that. And then the Institute of Internal Auditors has a really active, they do trainings, they do little meet and greets. So, getting involved with those as a student member, it's a lot of times they'll have like little free things where the students, don't have to pay a fee to join. Or even if they do have a fee period, it's so low. It's like $30 maybe for a year. And it's so worth it to, again, as Chris mentioned earlier, network. Getting out there and meeting those professionals. Sorry, my 2-year-old's in the background. You can see her arm poking up from time to time. But one of the other things I'll point out too is, for my sake, I wanted to go into audit, and I'm in internal audit now, but the knowledge that I gained from starting out as external audit, even if I'd only done it for 2 years, was so vital. And that was really some other professionals who really told me kind of that was a good way to go. The exposure that you get to the field. And so maybe it's not something you want to do long term, but look at it. What can I get from this experience in the 1 or 2 years, and how is that going to benefit me in the future? And that's the stuff that the current professionals, once you actually get out there, they can tell you what the best route is sometimes.
Nice, thank you. All right, Chris.
One thing that really helped me was I did an internship with the South Chamber of Commerce, and that actually I never knew about mixers. So joining mixers, going to mixers, you meet different people from different fields. The information is out there. So I suggest, I guess, trying to see what clubs there are, what clubs are on campus, what clubs are, who comes and visits the school. Just go out and just put yourself out there and find what you're interested in. And I highly suggest going to these mixers, networking with people. And from there, you meet other people by that. And, they're always like, I remember this person from Texas A&M. things like that. Your name will be brought up eventually.
So the mixer, sometimes again, it's a wonderful environment, right, to connect. What advice do you have to, like, for a student how to navigate, especially if there's their first mixer they're ever going to? How do they make that worthwhile?
With me, I think just honestly putting yourself out there, asking who's ever there. I'm not sure if y'all still do the HB mixer. Um, I know when I was there, Texas A&M had like a HEB mixer there that was hosted by HEB, and all I did was talk to as many people from HEB as I can, ask them questions. What do they do? Try to get as much knowledge out of them in a short period of time. But still, they're gonna remember. Oh, I remember this kid. He asked me. He was interesting. He asked. He was hungry for the knowledge. He was hungry to learn. So just talk to as many people as you can, and just put yourself out there. I know it's nerve-wracking. People are shy. I completely understand that. But, at the end of the day, it's very helpful.
Yeah, I think also, I mean, the art of the follow-up, right? So
Yeah.
you're collecting those business cards, send them maybe a LinkedIn message, send them an email, maybe having that cup of coffee or that lunch just to make it really meaningful. Because yeah, I'm naturally really introverted. So networking events, I walk in, I'm like, oh my goodness, what is this? But maybe breaking it up into small conversations, and it totally is doable. All right. So again, if anyone has any questions for our panelists, feel free to enter them into the chat. Let's see. Okay, I do have, I guess, another follow-up is, so would you be open, like say if we have a student that is interested in connecting, is that something that you would be open to sharing your contact information in the future for them? So Chantel, Chris, Josh, anyone?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
for sure.
by all means.
Okay,
Absolutely.
nice. Yeah, I think that's, we really wanted to target alumni on this series because, again, y'all have been in these rooms, you've seen these faculty, you've had these experiences. We wanted to be very mindful of that because students, I mean, these are Jaguars who have been in your very shoes. So we want to make sure you can connect and have those meaningful conversations throughout. Which is the best way? I mean, is it something where you suggest maybe like a LinkedIn message? Would that be the easiest for y'all? Yeah. Okay, good deal. All right, so it looks like we may not have any questions. So I'm going to actually take the time to do some plugging of some events that are coming up that are also very helpful to the career journey of our Jaguars. So give me a moment to go ahead and share my screen on this. And she's adorable, Josh, by the way.
Yeah. She had a bit of a cough this morning, so I didn't want to take her to daycare. So
Oh. No, I totally understand. All right. So this is only the first session of day 2 for majors and minors. The next session will be talking about leadership and operations. So our alumnus will actually be representing the management and marketing side. And then we'll be wrapping our day up with technology, which will be some alumnus from our computer information system and computer science programs. And then tomorrow is day 3. So really excited, whole new slate of alumni for this as well. We'll be launching with health and wellness, which will be highlighting our kinesiology majors, our helping professions, which is our counseling program, and education, which is our administration plus our education non-cert and cert tracks. So we hope that you can join us tomorrow. Now, another thing I want to make sure that everybody is familiar with is we have launched an initiative called Workforce Wednesdays. This is actually something that we're doing every other Wednesday, in which we're highlighting different career paths here in San Antonio. We want to make sure that we are kind of being strategic and we're introducing students to all the different career paths that are out there. Just make sure that you know what you can actually approach. Now, the nice thing is that next week we'll actually be featuring David Valdez, who is a alumnus also of A&M San Antonio. He's actually an alumnus of our computer science program. So he's going to talk about how he was really strategic on not only using student organizations, but also internship to really launch his career out there. And then this is also launching is that next week we have our all majors virtual career fair. And that's a big question that we get from students. Maybe they're like, well, when should I go to a career fair? Should I wait till I'm a junior and senior? No, I mean, as a freshman, sophomore, we certainly welcome you to attend this because recruiters are actually looking for a whole slew of opportunities from that internship role, or maybe you're just wanting to explore and find that person to connect with. So please take advantage. Now, the nice thing is that in our virtual setting, we'll be using Handshake. So you do need to pre-register on Handshake, and it allows you to do a lot of research for those employers before you even get into the session. So make sure to take advantage of that. Also, our graduate professional school fair. So as you noticed, that some of the panelists did explore a master's program. We want to make sure, again, if you need to have those conversations early on, do it. Maybe like, well, what does a CPA license look like? Should I go for that MPA? I'm not sure yet. What's the difference between an MBA and an MPA? Well, ask. This is actually an opportunity for you to meet with actual admissions officers and again, kind of see, well, what are the expectations when they're reviewing those candidate applications? Are you going to have to take maybe some entrance exams? Well, okay, what is a GMAT and how do I prepare for that? Even as a freshman, we want to make sure that you actually build a plan of action so you are strategic on when you are taking advantage of these opportunities. And then don't forget about the Maze Center. Again, we are here to support you even in a virtual environment. We are still meeting with students. If you have questions about your resume, maybe your interview, or just even maybe it's one of those things where you're like, I still don't know about my career path. I still have questions about my major. So feel free to ask, and we want to connect with you as much as we can. And then for our Jaguars in attendance, make sure even if you've watched this actual recording of it, you have 72 hours from the live stream to actually mark your attendance in Jag Sync. So don't forget to do so. So let me close on the slide deck. Okay. And so before we close off, I do want to make sure to give some time for Catherine from our academic advising team. All right, so Catherine, we've heard from these wonderful alumnus. We've heard their journey, and I'm in awe with y'all. Y'all are complete rock stars, and y'all are doing some really great things. So thank you for representing the A&M-SA name out there. I want to open to you, what advice you have from an academic advising perspective? What are those words of wisdom that students should know?
Sure. First of all, yes, thank you everyone, all of the alumni who have participated today, because it's just amazing of what you're doing now. So there are several points that I'd like to kind of touch on, and it all has to do with what the alumni has said. So networking, basically also, get into an internship. The main thing that I would really like to point out, though, is to take your time. When you're in whether it's accounting program or the finance program, it's so important to focus on those classes and don't feel like you're in such a rush to finish your degree so you can get a job, because it's not as simple as just finishing the degree and then having your dream job. As the alumni know, it takes some time. And so you should really just focus on those classes, focus on getting an internship. I think internships are very worthwhile. They're very beneficial. And network like crazy. Network with your professors, reach out to your professors. If you have issues with classes, we always encourage the students to reach out to their professors first before doing anything else, because they're the ones that are handing out the assignments and the tests and everything. So, and they're very knowledgeable. So that's what I would recommend. I would recommend for students to just really enjoy and learn everything that you can when you're in your program, whether it's accounting or finance, and then you will get there.
Thank you so much for that. All right, well, thank you again, everyone. Chris, Chantel, Josh, thank you for your time and just, again, continuing to represent the Jaguar brand out there. Y'all are doing some great things, and we so appreciate your time and effort on here.
Thank you, alumni. Appreciate it.
You gonna wave bye?